fundamental issue, I will not yield, and Planned Parenthood will not yield.
All the odds are against us. Faithfulness is the word.
My religion compels me, and I love it for it, to be against discrimination of any kind in our country.
Our rights come from nature and God, not from government.
All God asks of you is faithfulness, faithfulness, faithfulness.
Fighting for the family, standing for the church, laboring to return to a moral and biblically based culture.
This is the American Family Association at AFA Today.
And we're glad you're with us on AFA Today from the belly of the news beast, New York City, as we are watching the Supreme Court today take down a couple of big decisions that we had wondered about and wondered if they were going to be coming the way families should be protected in America, or if they were going to decide otherwise. And I will tell you from the reactions we're getting across the board today on the left side of the scale, I'm pretty happy with these decisions. I was just en route to the studio before we got here today, and the complaining, the moaning, the groaning that is being done by particularly those that are bemoaning the Hobby Lobby decision. I think all the whining is taking place exactly as it should. And for that, I am grateful. But Kevin McCullough is my name, and we're glad you're here. 888-589-8840 is my phone number. And, of course, we're going to talk about this. We've also got a special guest who's going to join us at 20 past the hour, Ed Morrissey, who's the senior editor at hotair.com. They had some of the first coverage on the case today on both of the significant Supreme Court cases. And so they're going to join us, and we should get some good analysis from Ed. He follows Supreme Court issues as part of what he regularly writes about for Hot Air, and it's a great site to get some deeper analysis than just headlines in terms of what you're looking for. So, what happened today? Well, here's how the Associated Press is describing it and discussing it. They're basically saying that this is a big win for corporations, and it's kind of historic from this perspective. It's saying for the first time, it's acknowledging for the first time that owners of businesses actually can have the potential to be faith-based people. Now, I know that comes as a shock to everybody. Oh, what? You mean business owners can actually practice faith? Yeah, evidently they can, and evidently they're kind of encouraged to in our free society, in our open society. But as I said, I was on my way to the studio just before we were on the air, and it was interesting because the woman who is the former, she's a former corporate counsel for a large corporation. I forget the name of the corporation, but most recently she had been the Today Show. I think she currently is the Today Show legal analyst. And her name's slipping my mind, but I'll come up with it in a second. Anyway, she was on with a local host here in New York, and she went on and on and on about how the three women of the Supreme Court all dissented. And obviously that makes the Hobby Lobby decision obviously anti-woman, because if not a single woman on the Supreme Court embraced the majority opinion, then this must be another realm of the attack against women. Whatever. She was irate, angry, almost foaming at the mouth in terms of the commentary she was giving. And the best that I got out of it, of my understanding, was this. She feels like that by Hobby Lobby being told that they don't have to enforce things that violate their religious opinion, their faith-based viewpoint, their deeply held moral convictions, then in some way, this woman, representative of all women, are therefore going to have their bodies controlled by their employers. Now, I was a little disappointed with the host because I wanted him to take her a little more to task and say, no, wait a second, how is this opinion going to force the choices that you make about your body to suddenly fall into the realm of what your employer says about it? And it would have been interesting to get that question answered, because I did not hear an answer come from her along that line of thinking. But this is, you watch over the next several days, this is how the feminist groups are going to argue about this. They're going to say very clearly this was a male-dominated court, that this male court decided in the interest of other white males, presumably business owners are all white, rich males, I guess, and that it's enriching corporations and that there's advantages for everybody here except for the poor little woman that can't somehow have say over her own sexual choices. Now, when the host did actually try to push back even mildly, and again, this is a lawyer that is saying this, is the legal contributor to the Today Show. He said a little bit about, well, no one's forcing you. There's always other options you can go to get. And she immediately shut him down and said, you know what? It's none of your business. It's none of your business if I can go somewhere else. Well, here's what I'm interested in knowing, and maybe, ladies, maybe you feel the same way that this legal analyst did, and I would be interested in knowing your opinion. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. And Cedra, we're going to have to use the the bunker talkback mechanism today because I don't have my regular computer. So I know you'll be on that right away. But here's what I want to know, especially for you ladies listening. Where does that woman come up with this stuff? Like, I know that I'm just an oaf and a doofus, and I don't understand the intricacies of the female mystery or mind. I understand that. I understand that I have many, drawbacks to fully comprehending the full truth of what it is to walk in a woman's shoes. I would never want to. They look too painful to me, number one. I see the ones the lovely bride wears. Oops. I said lovely bride. I forgot to tell you. Last week there was these two women that wrote the Facebook page and said, "Why do you call your wife the lovely bride? It's so sickening. Nobody can always be the lovely bride." Sorry. I did it again. I'll probably do it again anyway. So here's the thing. I know that I'm not qualified to comment on the female psyche or the female mind or the female way of thinking. So I'm asking you, my female listeners, to help me understand. This female legal analyst, the NBC Today legal show contributor, Today Show legal contributor, very angry, saying that this decision was now going to put the control of her sexual choices into the hands of her employer. Now, I'm not the brightest bulb in the box. I'll admit that right up front. But how does that work? And ladies, I want to know specifically, I want somebody to tell me what she's thinking, because I'm missing like a light switch somewhere. Like all the circuits seem to make sense to me. I don't see her conclusion involved where this case is involved. All this case did was say that closely held companies, meaning not publicly traded, a lot of your family-owned businesses or very small partnerships or other things, closely held companies, not broadly owned, publicly. And I think there's another fight coming with that down the road, because you have stockholders, you have many more owners than just a primary owner. But if you have a primary owner and it's a private business, it's a closely held company. The Supreme Court today said you cannot be forced to supply things that violate your personal, moral, and religious conviction. It's a big win. This is a huge win for religious liberty. In fact, it's probably the most important win for religious liberty in like the last 20 years. And I have another idea about this case that is not going to please some friends of ours either, and that is, now that we've established that a business owner does in fact practice faith, and sometimes even in the place of business, how can you then force a cupcake maker, a cake baker, a photographer, and other people to participate in things that violate their conscience? And those cases, I think, are going to have this case to point back to and say, hey, we're religious people. We're faith-oriented people. You can't make us do things that violate our conscience. So I think there's a stepping stone here to another case to be made for religious liberty as it pertains to what services and vendors are forced to provide based on, this idea that You know, they're just another business, and all businesses have to do the same thing. And by the way, why in a free market would we ever want to force a business to have to do something? Wouldn't the marketplace settle that issue for itself? I've never understood that. If somebody says, well, I don't want to provide my employees birth control or abortions, and somebody doesn't like that, do they have to take that job? Do they have to work there? Is there something about the universe that is putting a gun to that person's head, saying you will take that job and work for that boss, and if he doesn't supply you birth control or abortions, then that's just horrible. You're going to be a slave to it. Like, wouldn't it be much better for the course of business and the free market all the way around to have some businesses who decide we're going to offer our employees those services, and some businesses who say, you know what, I'm a person of faith and I stand for certain values and we don't provide those here. And then if you're a consumer, you actually get to make a better choice then. Oh, I could shop here and know that some of my money was going to supply those things, or I could shop here and decide that some of my money wouldn't go to supply some of those things. How does that hurt the free market? How does it hurt the consumer? How does it hurt the individual? To have greater diversity, something the left is always preaching about. Oh, we got to have more diversity. To have more diversity in the businesses that exist, I think is kind of a good thing. How is it not? 888-589-8840. But a big, big win for religious liberties today. Let's talk to, let's take the ladies first. Let's go to Georgia on line 2 and speak with Connie. Hi, Connie. Welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. Glad you're here.
Hey, thank you. I don't understand it. I've seen so many posts on Facebook today about how this has set back women's rights, etc. My point has been, totally in agreement with you, is that it's not about whether women are giving up control of their bodies or not. It's about the employer's right to say what they can and cannot pay for. I mean, it's not stopping them from using contraceptives. I mean,
yeah, but Connie, if you listen to these people, and it sounds like you have, you've heard them say, well, my employer now has taken control of my body.
But I don't get that, because they haven't. It's just, I'm not going to pay for it.
Right. And well, I guess they believe that the employer should have to pay for it. And that's another thing that I don't quite understand. And I know that I'm kind of a doofus, bumbling idiot when it comes to womanhood. But Connie, help me understand, what part of the logic gene am I missing here that makes that I should want employers to have to pay for the birth control and abortions that their female employees want?
You're not missing anything.
Oh, okay, good.
That's my whole point, is that they should not have to.
No, I'm in agreement with you.
I don't believe in those. The use of contraceptives, I don't care if somebody else wants to use them, but I should not have to pay for it. If my neighbor wants to use contraceptives, that's their business. Yeah. But I'm not going to pay for it, and I shouldn't have to.
No, I agree with you, Connie. Thank you for the call. And it's kind of the same problem with Obamacare all the way around. I shouldn't have to, like, if my neighbor wants to shove 27 Big Macs in his pie hole every day and walk around with all the health consequences of whatever that would do to you, he should have the freedom to do that, but I shouldn't be forced by law to then have to pay for his health care as the result of him doing that to his body. Like, the idea that we are individually responsible for our own actions and choices is so offensive. And today they're saying it's offensive to women. Oh, we've somehow, because women have responsibilities and can make choices for themselves, somehow that is us taking control of their body. I thought it was exactly the opposite. I didn't think you wanted your boss in your birth control business. If you make him pay for it, he has a right to be in it. That's the point. You don't want him to be in it, don't ask him to pay for it. Hand that rocks the cradle. Or something like that. Anyway, Kevin McCullough coming back. Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com will be with us when we continue on this big Supreme Court breaking news day on AFA Today on AFR Talk.